Hi, hello, how are you? I hope you're doing very fine. Today I'm back to film a new video. It's gonna be a reading wrap up. I feel like it's very basic, but it's also kind of like gonna be the base of my channel, hopefully, to do monthly, 2 monthly wrap ups of what I'm currently reading and what I have read for the past month. I'm not sure I'll do monthly wrap ups because some months I just don't read as much. For example, I wanted to do a monthly wrap up in January, but I literally read like 4 books, which were 2 short stories for school and 2 mangas. So, like, I feel like that's really not enough content or time to say anything, so I felt like it was stupid to do a video for this. Yes, but now that we are the 1st of March, I wanted to do wrap up from what I read in January and in February. Okay, so let's get started with what I read. The first book I'm going to mention is not a book I read, but a book I DNF'd, and I actually started the year while I was reading this. So honestly, my 2022 reading year didn't start off well at all. First of all, I barely read in January. Second of all, I DNF'd the first book I started. So very fun. The book, I'm gonna put all the books here in a picture because I don't have anything here with me. The first book I DNF'd was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I read like halfway through, I think, almost, barely, I don't even remember. I DNF'd it. It was a very big disappointment for me. I mean, I wasn't expecting much, but I just didn't like it at all. It's a book, if you don't know, that's like a sort of analogy of like depression, and you basically are following this woman. She is depressed, suicidal, and one day she decides to kill herself. And after she tries that out, she fails. She is put in this world that's like called Midnight Library, and it's basically a big library with many books. And there's this woman in this place called the librarian, and she is gonna basically tell her that all of these books are like stories of her life and how her life could have turned out to be if she made different decisions. So like there is this book, it's the story of her life if she would have married her ex-boyfriend. There is this book if she decided to become a professional like athlete. So she's gonna read these books and live these lives and see which life is more fitted for her. You know, she's gonna explore like her regrets and stuff. It was very average. First of all, I did not like the writing style. I did not like the main character. I did not think like anything was important. It just felt like a huge message book. Like, you should live with love and hope and no regrets. And if you're depressed, just consider that life's a gift. And you know, it seemed very not subtle, very cheesy, overly optimistic. I wouldn't know how to describe it otherwise. It's like a book that it felt like the book was telling me be happy because life's worth it, and I don't really like that. Like, it just felt very unsubtle and just like be happy, and that's why. And it felt very childish, overly optimistic. Other than that, the book was just boring. I was extremely bored. I just wanted to give it up, and I did give it up. I kind of regret not finishing it. Maybe I could have written a good review on Goodreads, but I just couldn't go through with it. I just was extremely bored, and I thought it was extremely empty. I don't know, but yeah. Moving on. I'm not gonna talk about it more. Then I read 2 short stories for school. I'm gonna try and write down here all of the books in their English name because these are books written in French originally. The first one is an open letter, and it's called J'accuse by Émile Zola. This is basically a letter that he published in the newspapers in like in 1890 something, and it's a open letter that defends like the right of speech. It's a very important literary work in French literature. It's very short. It's like 15 pages. I read this for a presentation, so yeah. Woof, complicated. And then I read Jonas ou l'artiste au travail by Albert Camus. This is a 50 pages short story about an artist and how art can make you crazy. And yeah, it's basically how an artist turns crazy because of his works and stuff. I really read a lot of short stories around art and the artist and stuff. But yeah, this was also for like a philosophy thing. yeah, it was very interesting. I really enjoyed this one though. I forgot to say, I gave 3 stars to J'accuse and 5 stars to Jonas to l'artiste au travail because I really thought it was a great short story and I really enjoy Camus' work. Yes. Then I read 2 mangas, which are Waiting for Spring by Anashin, Volume 1 and 2. I gave both 4 stars. A bit later, I also, like, throughout February, I also read volume 3 and 4. So we'll mention them too. I also gave 4 stars to, like, all of them. So yeah, I read the first 4 volumes of this manga series, and it's so cute. It's like shoujo's, very cute, very kind of cliche and basic, so I won't say it's like the most revolutionary thing of all time, but I'm having lots of fun. It's a friend who lended me the first 2 volumes, and she doesn't have the next one, so I'm reading them in scan. It's super cute. It's like a story of this girl. She doesn't really have any friends, she's like very shy and stuff, and she meets this basketball team in her school that are very popular, and they hang out in the coffee shop where she's working, and so she's gonna start hanging out with them, and it's a romance, and there are like friendship stuffs. It's very cute. Liking this a lot for now. Very excited to continue with the series. I don't really have much to say about these mangas. They're just very sweet and cute. Then I read Darius the Great is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. This was absolutely amazing. I loved this book. It's a contemporary book that basically follows Darius. He deals with clinical depression, and he also is half Iranian, half American. And he doesn't really connect with his Iranian side because he doesn't speak Persian. He also never really had any contact with his Persian family. He has never been to Iran. He feels very disconnected from this part of himself, and he also has a very complicated relationship with his father. And one day his grandfather that he never met, actually he has cancer, and his cancer is really bad, so with his parents and sister they go to see him one last time. And so it's his first time in Iran. He'll meet his family. He'll meet also a friend. His name is Sorhab, and they're gonna have a very cute friendship because Darius doesn't really have friends in America. He's kind of the kid who's bullied. He's also fat, and he really has a very bad relationship with his classmates and stuff. So he feels very lonely, and this is gonna be the first time he gets a real friend. It was adorable. I loved this book. It's like 300 pages and I had so much fun. It's a beautiful book about loving all parts of yourself, and if you're like biracial, discovering the part of yourself that you're not, the country, for example, where you're not living in, like loving all parts of yourself. It's also a beautiful story about like family relationships. Like he's learning to really love and meet his grandparents and his like finally in Iran, but also his complicated relationship with his father, who also has clinical depression, and his father has a really weird relationship with the fact that his son is fat and his son's food. So it's kind of like how Darius deals with all of that. It was a beautiful story. I gave it 4.5 out of stars. I got really attached to Darius. I related a lot to a lot of stuff happening in his life, and I really thought he was a cute character, very relatable, very lovable. Some stuff that he was like talking about, that stuff really hit, and I really loved seeing him loving his all parts of himself, and also his friendship with Sohrab was absolutely the purest thing, and I love stories about friendship. I don't have clinical depression, but I do feel like the treatment was good, and also the author has clinical depression himself, so that was really good. And I think Darius is also gay, even though it's not tackled in the book at all. I think there's like a companion book that tackles that more in depth, so maybe I'll read it, but I really loved it. I thought it was amazing, and like just also learning a lot about like Persian culture was very good and interesting, and I'm very curious to read more books set in like Iran. I thought it was amazing, and I feel like Darius is really explaining some things as if we know nothing about Persian culture, which is amazing, and I learned a lot. I just loved it. I would highly recommend it. It was an amazing contemporary, so yeah. Then I read some mangas. Yes, of course. I read the first book in this series. My sister gifted to me this manga for Christmas. It's called L'Atelier des Sorciers by Kamome Shirahama. I'll put the book down with the English name and stuff. But it was a cute manga. I won't read the sequel because I don't want to buy them. But it was a cute manga. It's like more on the child's side of the manga world. You follow the little girl. It's a world where there are like magicians and stuff, and she dreams to be a magician, and one day there's like stuff happening and she becomes one, and so she's like starting to train to be a magician and stuff. Like, yeah, it was cute. Nothing amazing, but very cute. I give it 4 stars, and I would recommend it if you like fantasy manga, but there are like on the cutesy side of fantasy manga. The drawings were also real nice. And also I read volume 3 of Fruits Basket. I'm currently reading Fruits Basket. I have volume 4 and 5 right behind me. These are like the volumes where you have 2 books in one. So yeah, I've read volume 3, which is the equivalent of like book 5 and 6. It was adorable. I loved it. Gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really like reading Fruits Basket. It's very sweet, very fun. I think what I read is the equivalent of the end of season 1. I haven't watched the anime, so it's kind of, but yeah, I'm having lots of fun reading these. It's like romance, a bit of fantasy, great characters, loving it. Then I read one of my new favorite books, and my first favorite of the year. I read Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zoner. This is a non-fiction book. Obviously you follow Michelle Zoner. She's talking about her life and her relationship, especially with her mother, and her mother who had cancer and died. So it's about how she dealt with her mom's illness and then her mom's death. It's also a story about food and her relationship with food and how food connected her and her mother. Forgot to mention that her mother is Korean. So Michelle Zoner is half Korean, half American, and it's also a story about how she learned to love her culture, her Korean side of herself, and how she grew apart from her Korean side but then went back to it later. It was a beautiful book that made me want to read even more nonfiction. It was absolutely amazing. The writing style is just gorgeous. Michelle Zoner is like a songwriter and a singer, so it really feels very lyrical in the writing style. I loved how she described food. I love how the mother-daughter relationship was pictured. It's not a perfect relationship. It has many flaws, but it's also a way to show that even if a relationship has flaws and is complicated, it still can be beautiful and the most important thing in your entire life. And that's really what this book was. It's beautiful. It was beautiful. I cried like so much because this book is so emotional. It made me feel very, very, very sad and heartbroken, but also like so happy and just in awe. Just in general awe. I wrote in my reading book that I feel like I witnessed someone's life story. It literally felt like that. I went through her life with her, even though she's like still very young and alive, but I just feel like I witnessed a big chunk of her life with her, and then when I finished it I felt just very empty, which is often something I feel when I read nonfiction, and it was just beautiful. I just cannot recommend it highly enough. It was just an amazing book. Then I finished a book for school. This is Les Travailleurs de la Mer by Victor Hugo. Les Travailleurs de la Mer is a novel by Victor Hugo, which you probably know because he wrote like Les Misérables, Notre-Dame de Paris. I hated this book. I started this like on the 25th of December and only barely finished it in like February. I struggled a lot. This book made me very, very mad. It's a novel that basically is supposed to follow the life of this man. He is very ostracized in his city. It's set in Guernsey, the island, and no one likes him in this island. He's has a very bad reputation, and he's in love with this girl. Uncle owns this boat that does the transit between France and Guernsey, and one day the boat is stolen, it's lost at sea and destroyed a lot. And so the father of this girl, he's the one person who will repair this boat will get to marry my daughter. So the main character goes and repairs it. It was extremely boring. The last 200 pages, almost 300 pages, and nothing happened. Like nothing. It's just setting. And then I was extremely bored. I really struggled to read it and finish it. I finished it in audiobook. It was thank God for the audiobook, honestly. And yeah, the ending was kind of okay, but the book overall, I hated it, and I gave it 2 stars, and I really, really never want to talk about it or hear about it ever again. Also for school, because I feel like I'm never giving up, I read a poetry collection. It's called Les Regrets by Joachim du Bellay, and inside this collection I also had to read a manifesto called Défense et illustration de la langue française. This was not that great again. This is a poetry collection. I don't really enjoy poetry that much, but definitely not this type. It's like the themes didn't hit interesting to me. The poems, there's none of them that actually really touched me. Only like 1 or 2 of them, but it's not enough in a whole collection. And the manifesto was a manifesto for like French language that he wrote at a time where Latin and Greek language were more used. It's interesting in a historical perspective, but I didn't like it nonetheless. Yes, I don't really like this poet, and we're currently studying it in French, and I'm extremely bored. Also for school, I feel like I'm gonna just finish to talk about the book for school, but I read a lot of these. Just be aware. Watching this channel, I read Le Mythe de Sisyphe by Albert Camus. Yeah, I read the same author that I read the short story in the beginning of the year. This is a philosophical essay about his ways of thinking, which is the absurd. Basically thinking that we live in an absurd world where nothing makes sense and there is nothing to answer to us, but we need to like fight it. And yeah, it's all of that. It was interesting, of course. I really liked studying Camus' way of thinking in class. However, I don't think I understood everything in Le Mythe de Sisyphe. I think I missed some points, but yeah, nonetheless, interesting. Definitely, I give it 3 stars. I don't just think I fully grasped everything that he said. Okay, and then I finished the month by reading We Free the Stars, which is the second book in We Hunt the Flame duology, written by Afsa Faisal. I really, really loved the first book. I read it like last year, and I gave it 4.5 stars, I think. This one I gave 4 stars. It was a very fun time. It's a huge chunky book of like almost 600 pages, written super smallly, so it did took me a while, but I really enjoyed it a lot. I like this world. I like how the author describes it. I liked how it wasn't boring at all. The story started off as soon as the book started, like action was coming through. It was amazing. I loved how she developed some of the characters. I loved having a new point of view, the one of Alter. He was super interesting. Overall, I just had a very fun time. I thought it was super enjoyable. I was super hyped. I just think the book is a bit long for what it is. I wasn't bored, but I just still think a lot of stuff happened, but not enough for it to be that long, if you know what I mean. I loved the development of Nasir in this book. He was amazing. He became really like way better than in the first book. However, I do think like his relationship with Zafira was cute, but so full of miscommunication. It literally pissed me off so bad. And also, I just gave it only 4 stars because I wasn't obsessed with it or anything. Like, I was really hyped, but I just wasn't obsessed with the book, you know? There's not a single moment where I was like, oh my god, so excited and stuff. Like, I just wasn't obsessed with the book, and I wasn't like, with the first book, I really was obsessed. Even though it was a slow start, I was obsessed when I got in, and I couldn't stop thinking about it when I wasn't reading it, which didn't happen with this one. I was having fun when I was reading it, but I wasn't obsessed when I wasn't picking it up, if that makes sense. But it was still a very fun time, a very good conclusion to a very fun duology that I would recommend. Yes. Anyway, that's it. For my little January-February wrap-up. I hope you liked this video. Hope it wasn't boring. I'm sorry if I keep touching my hair, it's a very bad habit of mine, but yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video, I hope you liked it, thank you for sticking with me, and if you're interested you can subscribe to my channel. I'll try to post as regularly as I can, but yeah, I'm now gonna go. Have a good day, have a good night whenever you're watching this, and bye.